Welcome to a world where lower courts sometimes defy the highest court of the land. Today, we delve into the top 5 worst lower court rulings that went against U.S. Supreme Court precedent. In the American legal system, the concept of precedent, also known as stare decisis, is truly fundamental. It's the principle that dictates that a court should stand by a decision and apply it in future cases with similar issues or facts. This principle is designed to promote consistent, predictable, and stable legal system. It's like a roadmap, guiding the decisions of lower courts based on the judgments of higher courts. But what happens when this roadmap is ignored? What happens when a lower court boldly chooses to defy the directions set by the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land? Today, we're diving into the first of the top 5 cases where this shocking scenario played out. Imagine a lower court staring at a clear precedent set by the Supreme Court and deciding to take another path. The precedent was there, crystal clear, yet the lower court chose to rule in a way that was in stark contrast to the Supreme Court's decision. It was a decision that sent shockwaves through the legal community. It was a decision that made many question the very concept of stare decisis itself. Why would a lower court make such a controversial decision? What were the circumstances that led to such a drastic departure from precedent? And most importantly, why was this ruling so detrimental to the legal system? These are the questions that we'll be exploring as we delve deeper into this case. As we navigate this legal labyrinth, we'll discover how this lower court's ruling not only went against precedent, but also why it was considered one of the worst of its kind. We'll peel back the layers of this legal conundrum, revealing the far-reaching implications of this shocking ruling. So buckle up as we embark on this journey through the complex world of legal precedent. Stay tuned as we unravel the mystery of why this lower court chose to defy the Supreme Court's ruling. Moving on to our 4th worst ruling, we find a case that sparked heated debates across the nation. This particular case revolved around the issue of free speech, a topic that has always been a hotbed of controversy in the United States. The lower court's ruling stood in stark contrast to the established Supreme Court precedent, which held that the government cannot restrict speech based on its content or viewpoint. However, the lower court ruling seemed to do just that, leading to an outcry from free speech advocates across the nation. The case involved an individual who was penalized for expressing a controversial viewpoint in a public forum. The lower court upheld this penalty, arguing that the controversial nature of the speech posed a risk to public order. This was a clear contradiction to the Supreme Court's precedent set in the landmark case of Brandenburg v. Ohio, which states that the government can only restrict speech if it is likely to incite imminent lawless action, a much higher standard than the one applied by the lower court. The controversy around this ruling was not only due to its contradiction to the Supreme Court precedent, but also because it seemed to be an attack on one of the most cherished principles of the American democracy, the freedom of speech. The public reaction was swift and fierce, with many arguing that the ruling set a dangerous precedent for the future of free expression in the country. As legal scholars and the public alike debated the implications of this ruling, it became clear that this was not just a legal issue, but a societal one. It raised questions about the limits of free speech, the role of the judiciary in interpreting the Constitution, and the balance between individual rights and societal interests. As we journey deeper into these controversial rulings, remember to subscribe, follow, comment, like, and share our video. There's more to come as we continue to explore the top 5 worst lower court rulings that went against U.S. Supreme Court precedent. At number 3, we have a judgment that sent shockwaves through the legal community. This case was a roller coaster ride from the start, with the lower court's ruling taking an unexpected twist that deviated from established Supreme Court precedent. To set the scene, let's delve into the case. It was a complex dispute involving constitutional rights and legal interpretations, the kind that keeps attorneys up at night. The lower court's ruling, however, turned the issue on its head, ignoring a key Supreme Court precedent that should have guided the decision. The precedent was clear-cut, a beacon of legal clarity in a sea of gray areas. It had been established by the Supreme Court after much deliberation, setting a benchmark for future cases. But the lower court, in a surprising move, chose to chart its own course. The impact on the legal community was immediate. Legal scholars, practitioners, and students alike were left scratching their heads, questioning the reasoning behind the ruling. The decision sparked heated debates in law schools and courtrooms across the country, with many questioning the lower court's disregard for the Supreme Court's guidance. Why was it viewed as a bad ruling? Apart from contradicting the established precedent, it threw a wrench in the predictability of law. Precedent is the cornerstone of our legal system. It provides consistency and stability, ensuring that similar cases are treated similarly. By ignoring this precedent, the lower court not only created confusion, but also undermined the very essence of justice. This ruling serves as a stark reminder of the importance of adherence to precedent. It underscores the need for lower courts to respect and follow the guiding principles laid down by the Supreme Court, the highest authority in the land. Hold on to your seats as we continue our countdown with the second worst ruling. Our second worst ruling is a verdict that not only defied Supreme Court precedent, but also seemed to defy logic. The case in question reverberates through the annals of legal history like a discordant note. It involves an individual who was charged with a serious criminal offense. The lower court, in a move that left many aghast, decided to hand down a ruling that flew in the face of a well-established Supreme Court precedent. The Supreme Court precedent, a cornerstone of American jurisprudence, had clearly outlined the procedures to be followed in such cases. It had been tested and affirmed time and again, becoming a beacon of legal certainty. However, the lower court chose to ignore this guiding light, charting instead a course that was both perplexing and controversial. The ruling was seen as a bad one for a number of reasons. Firstly, it blatantly disregarded the Supreme Court precedent. This in itself is a serious issue as it undermines the predictability and stability of the law, two key elements that underpin a fair and just legal system. Secondly, the ruling seemed to defy logic. It was as if the court had taken a detour around the rule of law, arriving at a decision that was not only inconsistent with established legal principles, but also seemingly irrational in its reasoning. The public outcry that ensued was deafening. Legal scholars, practitioners, and laypersons alike voiced their concern and disbelief. Social media was abuzz with discussions, debates, and disapproval. This ruling, it seemed, had struck a nerve, highlighting the importance of adherence to precedent and logical reasoning in the justice system. In the end, this case serves as a stark reminder of the potential pitfalls when lower courts veer from established Supreme Court precedents. It underscores the need for consistency, predictability, and above all, logic in our legal decisions. As we reach the climax of our countdown, prepare for the worst ruling of them all. We've finally arrived at the worst lower court ruling that went against U.S. Supreme Court precedent. In the legal annals of the United States, few cases have caused as much uproar as this one. It was a case that challenged the very fabric of the justice system, a decision that shattered precedent like a sledgehammer through glass. This case revolved around a fundamental constitutional right, a cornerstone of our democracy, yet the lower court's ruling was in stark contrast to established Supreme Court precedent. The case in question involved the right to a fair trial, a right so essential that it's enshrined in the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution. The Supreme Court precedent was clear as day. Every defendant has the right to a public trial. It's a principle that ensures transparency and accountability, a safeguard against the potential abuses of the justice system. But the lower court, in a move that left legal scholars and practitioners alike scratching their heads, decided to conduct the trial in secrecy, away from the public eye. The court's reasoning was vague at best, and many viewed it as an attempt to circumvent the time-honored principles of justice. The outrage was palpable. Legal experts, civil rights advocates, even the general public were left aghast at the blatant disregard for Supreme Court precedent. It was a ruling that didn't just bend the rules, it broke them. This case serves as a stark reminder of the impact such rulings can have. It undermined the public's trust in the justice system, casting a long shadow over the principles of transparency and accountability. It was a decision that, in the eyes of many, was nothing short of a legal travesty. It stands as the worst lower court ruling against Supreme Court precedent, not just for its audacious defiance of established law, but for the damage it inflicted upon the public's faith in the justice system. As we conclude our countdown, we hope this video sheds light on the importance of Supreme Court precedents and the consequences when lower courts choose to defy them.